Did you know that there is a board game where there are more possibilities for the way that the game can play out than there are atoms in the known universe?
And for reference, do we know how many atoms there are in the known universe?
That's about 10 to the 80.
That is a lot of zeros.
Yeah.
I don't know. Could such a board game exist?
There is a board game with an estimated number of game possibilities, 10 to the 120. The longest possible game could last about 5,900 moves. However, the average game lasts only 38. We're talking about a game... Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, if for a game that sounds as infinitely complex as this, it must be something extremely modern.
Yes and no. We are talking about chess today, and chess is a game with immense popularity in the modern world, and it's a little bit debated where the true roots of the game are. But we do know that there was some idea of the game of chess similar to its modern form in around the 8th century and possibly the 7th century as well. Yes, there was a lost book on chess strategy written by a man. I'm trying to look up the history right now. The oldest chess manual dates to the year, around the year 840, and was written by a renowned Arab chess player. This manuscript has been lost, but is referenced in later works. Now, the game is thought to have originated beforehand in northwest India in the 7th century, although, as I said, this is not necessarily agreed upon nowadays. The earlier forms of chess were known as chaturanga, or I don't know if I've mispronounced that, chaturanga, and that literally translates from the Sanskrit to 4 divisions pertaining to the military, for this is a game that, used to include infantry, cavalry, elephants, and chariotry. However, over the years, this has evolved, and especially due to the influence of Europe in the evolution of the game to its modern form, we now have pawns, knights, rooks, and bishops, where the elephant of ye olden times is now the bishop, and the chariot, I believe, is now the rook. So, I'm extremely excited to be talking about chess today, because it is a game that is near and dear to my heart. Wikipedia itself actually classifies the genre of chess as 3 things. A board game, of course, fair enough. A game of abstract strategy, also fair enough. But then also this term that I hadn't come across before, called a mind sport. And I endorse this term fully. I'm going to be using it a lot more often, I think, going forward, because I would really like to consider myself extremely sporty. And if I can excuse that chess makes me a sportsman in a way, then I will endeavour to be as good at it as possible. The history of chess that you've just outlined is quite fascinating, and I love it because we can see the influence of different cultures through the game itself. Its origins are more Eastern, even though it's what we would consider Eastern. It's sometimes called Western chess, actually, but that is to contrast it with games like xiangqi, which is a Chinese version of chess, or sometimes called, I think, elephant chess, and then the Japanese equivalent called shogi, which is sometimes called Japanese chess. But despite that, it still has its origins in the East, the Middle East, and India, but with the influence of the Western world, we've replaced elephants with bishops and chariots with rooks and so forth. So it's a nice blend, a mélange of different authorities lending their experiences to the game, and it has a modern revival as well, in a sense. The 2020 COVID pandemic led to many people being shut in with little to do outside and minimal interaction compared with what they were used to, and a lot of these people turned to playing chess online, and in the online chess community it's known as the 2020 chess boom. So it's recently undergone something of a resurgence, and in the spirit of the 2020 chess boom, Will and I thought that we would do something a little bit different for today's episode of That Encyclopedia Podcast. Would you like to reveal our plan, Will?
Yes, I will. We are going to play a game of chess, and you are going to watch. You will watch.
This is no longer a car-based podcast. You now have to be in the kitchen or something else where you can actually stop what you're doing to look at the screen.
Or we could attempt to narrate in the classic notation of chess moves. For example, bishop to e4. And
I don't think that's a legal opening move.
But if we describe what's happening like that, then we know that all of our hyper-intellectual listeners with incredible capacity for imagining space in their own mind, they all know exactly what's going on. They don't need to see the board.
I really like this idea with one little tweak, because at the moment, if we just started narrating chess moves, then the only people who would understand what the hell we were talking about are chess enthusiasts, who would probably stop what they were doing to watch the game anyway. So I think we should first explain briefly how chess is played in terms of its objectives and layout, rather than going through all of the intricacies of piece movements and things.
So we play chess on an 8x8 checkered board. Originally, it is thought that the game was devised to be played on an uncheckered board known as an Ashtapadi, which is a board for a number of board games originating in India, but since the game has developed, of course, the board has changed. We've now got a checkered board, and we have two sides. We have a white side and a black side. Each side has the most important piece of all in the game of chess, the king. And essentially, the goal of the game chess is to trap the king so that his death is guaranteed, and once you have trapped the king, known as a checkmate, you have won.
White always moves first. The pieces aren't always literally black and white. Sometimes you have like a black is maybe brown, or I've seen green as well, and white might be a different colour, but it's normally a lighter colour and a darker colour, ideally black and white, and white always has the first move. In kind of studies that have been conducted and all else equal trials, white is normally considered, because it necessarily goes first, to have a very slight advantage over the black pieces. But I do not play chess at a level where that is in any way relevant. So if you do reach or do have a chess playing ability where this actually becomes relevant, please reach out and make contact, because I would love some pointers in my chess strategies, which are currently non-existent. Although I do know how to play, and based on our chess.com ratings, you know how to play very well. Question mark?
Well, I know how to play. We'll say that much. Luckily, now we're playing on a digital medium. We have the benefit of almost a little tension meter on the left-hand side. I don't know if you can see that. It's toggled on and off by this little switch, the evaluation switch. But we have this bar right now, which is half white, half black, and that tells us some measure of the probability of a win from either side. So we're going to see that changing throughout the game, and things can really go back and forth in a good game of chess. So don't expect one side to just take a storm into victory once they've tipped over 50%. But I'll just briefly explain the concept of the different pieces having different moves. Obviously, if you've never played chess, we've got a row known as pawns. Each pawn can only move one tile forward normally, or it can attack and capture a piece forward and diagonally one tile. And on their first move that they ever make, they are allowed to move 2 tiles forward. Then we've got the king, who obviously we don't want him to get captured. And so if he is under threat of being taken, he has to move. You are in check. And if you cannot move him, that is checkmate, you have lost. The queen, she can move any number of tiles in any direction. Of course, only one chess piece can move through other chess pieces, and that is the knight, which has a very irregular movement pattern of moving 2 tiles straight in one direction and then once again to the adjacent tile, and that is where it will end up. The rook can move only in these straight lines, and the bishop can move in these diagonal lines. And that will be about enough, hopefully, for people to know.
I think that's a solid introduction. Shall we do this? A game of rapid chess?
Yeah, let's get cracking. I'm just wondering where I should plonk my cool facts about chess to play during the... Oh, I need to start screen capturing again, because moving my tile has made it unhappy. I wonder if I can select a specific tab to screen capture. I don't know, I'll just record the whole thing still. You can probably edit it after. Okay, if I press the rematch button, rematch requested.
Rematch requested. Oh, a pop-up. I accept. You are the white pieces.
Yes. Right.
All right.
Well, I guess I should start. I will move my pawn from d2 to d4.
Chess.com informs me this is known as the Queen's Pawn opening.
We don't get the tension bar mid-game. I forgot about that. That's a shame. You only get to watch it after.
I will respond with the England Gambit. A sort of reverse Scandinavian.
Interesting. Well, I'm a fan. I will take that as an example of a pawn taking diagonally.
And how would this move be narrated formally?
I'm not that familiar with narrating.
I think, well, according to my chess.com bar, it says d takes e5. And then I shall say knight c6.
Okay. Reasonable. Now, one of the tips for noobs in chess is to try and move all of your pieces, not necessarily the king, and to get them to help and control the center of the board. So I'm going to attempt to... I don't know though, I might allow you to take that. This is where I'm in the tough spot because this C is a gambit. I will develop this knight.
Knight f3. We would say that the pawn on e5 is currently under attack by my knight on c6, but it is not hanging, which is to say, if I were to take it now, that capture could be punished because it is defended now by Will's knight on f3. So I can instead do something like add more pressure by doing queen e7.
Spooky. Spooky. I'm now under threat more intensely. Okay. Let's think, what are my options? Now, it's tempting to deploy... So you've now deployed your most powerful piece. It's tempting for me to do the same and to deploy my queen into the fray. Could leave me in a vulnerable position though. Maybe I should just let you do your thing.
Let me do my thing. It's fair enough. Let's push f6.
Oh, interesting. See, I figured maybe it would be better for you to have simply taken that with your knight. For now, I get another pawn before my pawn is dead.
You do, but I develop both knights. I mean, to be fair, the eval bar thinks that f6 is also a terrible move. So maybe let's not pretend I've got some grand strategy here.
Now I've done something that you could describe as a pin, which is that if you were to move that knight now, your queen could be taken by my bishop, which would be a significant trade in my favour if that were to happen.
Yes.
Okay.
h6.
Okay. I see what you're trying to do. Trying to put some pressure on. Question
Just a little
is,
bit of pressure.
Let's keep things going.
Sure. I think...
Oh, the other thing to bear in mind in this game is we have limited time to take all of our moves in the game. Once we run out of that time, we lose by default. So
yes,
Jacob,
and it is a...
Go on.
I'm currently up in time, and it is a perfectly legitimate way to win if
Yes,
you're
it
just
is.
too slow.
Yeah.
Although this is not a typical game in that we are communicating actively with each other, which I've never played in a chess tournament before, but I understand it's not allowed to talk to your opponent during a chess tournament unless it's to offer a draw or I don't know, flip out.
I don't think I was recording that segment of gameplay. However, the game will be recorded. I'm recording the game live from now, and the first 3 minutes of the game will be stored in the database, so I can run through it.
Fair enough.
That will be more challenging to edit, but there we are.
Yeah. I think I will try...
There's not that many moves,
Queen
actually.
E6.
Just like flipping 6 moves have been made. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. You've moved a piece. You can develop some more pieces. What do I want to do? I kind of want to protect myself I'm going to show a special move, hopefully, in the near future, if I haven't made a terrible mistake.
Mm-hmm. Ah, I see.
Well, there are a couple of special moves, but I don't think I'm going to display en passant anytime soon. Which is a move where your pawns can take other pieces and proceed forward in an abnormal way. Okay. I'll keep a more relaxed and defensive formation for now. You don't always need to have your pieces right in the middle for them to be doing good service.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's very true.
And I see some interesting lines of attack in the near future for myself. So what Jacob has allowed to happen this game through his interesting choice of opening move is his king does not have many pawns around it, and pawns are quite nice as a little body barrier. They're not super valuable in terms of offensive play, but they're quite nice to have there just to defend yourself. Check.
I have been checked. Now there are 3 ways to escape check. The king can dodge, a piece can block, although not if it's a knight checking the king, because knights can jump over pieces, so you can't block a knight attack, or you can capture the piece. It's not a knight, but there's no piece that can block except the queen, which would be a terrible idea. And there is no way and if you can't do any of these 3, then you lose, because no matter what you do, your king would be taken on the subsequent turn, and so you are in checkmate, not just check. The king can dodge, which is perfectly fine. It does stop me from castling this game, which I think Will be demonstrating probably next move. And nothing can capture the bishop from this position. Therefore, my king will be going like this here. D7.
Side step. Little step to the side. Okay.
Just a little step.
Okay. So, I mean, I could castle now. A couple other options available to me. One of them I like quite a lot, actually, now that I'm looking at it. But, you know, I'm no master. I will go for this one. Just double checking. Triple checking. Okay. I'll take this.
Nice.
So I'm threatening his queen with my knight, and my knight is protected by my queen.
Yes, this is true.
So, interestingly though, if you look at my bishop, my green bishop, it is currently under threat in the sense that if he were to take it, I couldn't actually take his bishop in return, because I can't move this pawn to put my king in check. But alternatively, I have threatened a more valuable piece of his, so it would be a mistake for him to take my bishop.
Yes.
So it's an alternative form of defense is offense. Force your opponent to react.
Yes. Which basically means I can dodge, similar to the king. I can dodge, or I can't block because it's a knight, or I can take the knight. In this particular case, I think I would like to trade by doing that. Now, Will can make this an equal exchange by taking back with the queen, but for the same reason that the pawn isn't actually defending the bishop, it can't capture the knight, because doing so would put the king in check. So in order to not lose material, Will is now forced to recapture with the queen. But he's not literally forced to by the rules, but if he doesn't, then the knight can escape next turn, and it will be just a 3+3 in materials for me. Each piece is assigned a material value in chess, which is not an infallible metric, but is a general indication of how good something is. The king doesn't have a value, or has a value of infinite, or whatever you want to say, because capturing the king, by definition, is winning the game, or getting to the point where you could capture the king. Pawns are given a material value of 1. The so-called, I think, minor pieces, which are your 2 knights and your 2 bishops, are given a material value of 3, and then your 2 rooks are given a material value of 5. The queen is given a material value of 9, so the equivalent to 3 minor pieces. There you go. Queen takes d4. But yes, this is all in good fun. Now, the queen is recaptured. The bishop, my bishop at the moment, on d6, isn't really doing very much. It's protecting 1 piece, but that's kind of it. So I think...
Oh yes, and a couple of interesting things going on here, unfortunately for Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
His rook on a8, trapped, can't really go anywhere, and it is partly trapped in because of that bishop on c8, which also, unfortunately, cannot really go anywhere.
And that's true. That is true. My development, as it's called, the ability to get your non-pawn pieces. Well, actually, I think pawns are not pieces. You have your pawns and your pieces. So developing your pieces past your line of pawns and making them active so that they're useful attacking squares and things is a critical part of the early game. And I'm not. Although the line said, I'm playing the England Gambit, I don't know what that means. So although apparently I selected the correct response if I were pursuing the England Gambit, I suspect by move 3 I strayed from what the Gambit necessitates, and have consequently found myself in a worse position for it.
Keep an eye on your timer.
Oh yes,
gotta keep things moving.
Yes, I'm trying to strike this balance. Now there's the time when mistakes get made. Let's attack the queen, why not? c5.
Okay. Luckily for me, I spent some time in my previous turn planning my next move if that were to happen.
Mm-hmm. I did not. I spent my time instead rambling about chess.
I suppose that's unfair.
I'll pull the king back, d8.
Okay, so what do we have now? I will demonstrate the special move. I am going... Oh, will I? Yeah, I think so. I'm going to pull my king to g1 and swap my rook to f1. And that is a nice defensive play there. My king is now encapsulated and away from the danger of anything attacking down these 2 diagonals here.
There is a wall of pawns. I will move b6.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to start taking some... I'm going to start ramping up some pressure. I'm going to move my queen closer to your king.
Good. And right on time, my timer has turned red, signifying that I have less than a minute left. It's like, alert!
1 minute left to live.
Yeah, precisely. That's fine. I think you can chill out there if you
weakness
want to.
of my play so far is that my rook on the A tile is obstructed. Okay. Yep. Okay, my rook is at risk. But I'm in a fairly strong attacking position right now, and my attack is my defense.
Because every attack forces me to move, I've got 20 seconds. I want to take something. Here, I want to take this bishop. Give me that bishop.
I want to take it. I want to take it back.
I'll go here with my queen.
Okay.
Why not? The eval bar has plummeted. Like the advantage changes are plummeting. There you go.
That's why I've forced into a lonely era towards the final seconds of the game.
This is very tragic. End my misery. Yes. No.
And there we have it.
Excellent. However, this might be a good opportunity to explain how chess is ranked if you play competitively. You are assigned something.
I don't really understand it very much myself, but if you
know.
No,
it's essentially just a mathematical algorithm, and I think there's a bit of variance in it. It's called an ELO rating. ELO is normally capitalized, ELO, and I'm not sure exactly what that stands for. Let's see if we can have a quick look.
The computer says I made a mistake.
Yes. But the ELO is essentially a measure of how good someone is at chess. Now, if it's designed so that if a player with a very high, if two players of equal ratings go against each other, then the winner gets some ELO and the loser loses some ELO. So it's sort of a zero-sum game. There's a finite number of ELO to go around, and players take ELO from one another to collect as much as possible. However, if there is a big discrepancy between the ELO ratings, then it is less punishing for the worst player to lose games. Otherwise, good players could rack up enormous ELOs by just curb stomping bad or new players. Prior to this game, my ELO rating was on chess.com at least was 517, whereas Will's was 1341, which meant had I won the game through some miracle, I would have siphoned 16 ELO points away from him. Even if I had managed to force the game to a draw, I would have gained 8 ELO points. Because I have lost the game, I haven't actually lost any ELO. Normally I would. If I played against someone around my rating, I would lose maybe 7 or 8 ELO points. But because Will, going into this game, was ranked so highly compared to me, I lost nothing in terms of formal assessment by losing to him. In contrast, I'm sure Will be able to confirm, had he lost the game, he would have plummeted quite significantly in what chess.com evaluated him as being.
So I stood to gain 1 point in the case of winning, which I did, thankfully. There we are, +1. If the game were to be a draw, I would lose 56 points, and if I lost, I would lose double, 112.
So
and
what this
was Mystic Egg a good sport? Yes. Say good game.
I will also say good game. Lovely. Excellent. Well, I think that brings us towards time. Do you have any insights or fun facts about chess that you wish to share on this very special and somewhat experimental episode of the podcast?
Do I? I have some of what's left on chess.com's 25 cool fun facts about chess. So, the first mechanical clock to be used as a timer instead of a sandglass was invented by Thomas Wilson in England in 1883. It was known as the tumbling chess clock. It consisted of 2 balanced clocks on a seesaw beam. When one was tilted downward, it stopped while the other clock started. Now you can imagine that it's my turn, the clock's running, I make a move, and then I tap the seesaw beam, it rocks over, my timer is paused, and Jacob's timer resumes. Nice little depiction there.
Lovely. Excellent.
Well, there's a lot to know about chess. Books and books of the stuff, in terms of history, in terms of even just opening moves. So we won't spend several years running a course on everything there is to know about chess, because I don't really have the time to learn it myself. But go and enjoy chess if you haven't done so before.
There's no better time to start playing chess than now. The pandemic has caused chess to skyrocket in viewership on websites like Twitch and chess.com's own integrated player, or Lichess if that's your preference. There are YouTubers who are international masters or grandmasters, streamers, all sorts of people. So it's never been easier to learn how to play chess well, and it's something that you can do literally any time you have a few minutes to spare with a friend or a stable Wi-Fi connection. So I would strongly recommend that everyone at least gives it a try, even if they ultimately decide that it isn't for them.